Good morning to everyone over in China. As we head into the early afternoon in short order, we have an extremely dangerous Typhoon Saola heading in the general direction of Hong Kong right now. The storm currently has winds of 140 miles per hour and a minimum central pressure of 935 millibars, and it is located at 21.8 degrees north, 116.3 degrees east, solidly putting it in as a Category 4 storm, and that is a dangerous situation unfolding there for Hong Kong and surrounding areas. Saola will bring destructive winds to Hong Kong and surrounding areas, as well as catastrophic rainfall and perhaps some dangerous storm surge as well. Catastrophic rainfall will be more likely here in the later part of the forecast period whenever it does begin to stall out. Where it begins to stall out is going to be crucial on who's going to experience that extremely dangerous rainfall. Weather model guidance also indicating for storm surge a possibility of 15 to 20 foot waves. However, we are not going to be able to really indicate inundation as we don't have the tools for that places like the National Hurricane Center do over in the Western Pacific. We don't even have an official number for wave heights, hence why I'm using model data from the GFS and the European model for that. Those are relatively reliable models, but that is by no means an official number. All right, let's talk about the weather setup with this thing. Saola is persistent in weakening slower than forecast. This has been the general trend with it. It was actually strengthening quite a bit earlier today, which turned it nearly into an extremely dangerous Category 5 storm. It was right on the edge, 155 mile per hour peak there. The storm is quickly getting close to Hong Kong and will likely make a very close approach as a major typhoon. We'll have more details on that soon. And satellite indicates that a slow weakening trend is likely beginning with the storm, and this slow weakening trend is keyword slow. So even though the storm is beginning to lose some steam, that does not mean that it's going to be any less significant when it does ultimately impact Hong Kong. Again, damaging winds, heavy rainfall, and storm surge, the main threats with this thing, and all three of them are going to be significant as this does move towards the Hong Kong area. The large nature of the storm will lead to high storm surges, long durations of heavy rain, and longer durations of damaging winds. That's one of the unfortunate things about this storm being somewhat large. However, it's likely why the storm didn't intensify into an extremely dangerous Category 5 system, but unfortunately larger area of impact and still a major typhoon. Let's now dive into the conditions the storm has. Sea surface temperatures are more than sufficient for this thing to maintain its strength, if not get stronger. If this thing were in more ideal conditions in other ways, it would likely be a Category 4 or 5 system. Higher end Category 4 than we currently see, and would probably be strengthening. However, wind shear and sea surface not sea surface, sea surface water vapor, or satellite water vapor, basically the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. You can see that wind shear is beginning to dive into the northward side of the system, and water vapor does show a pretty moist environment, but again, wind shear is going to be the primary reason that this might begin to weaken. Land interaction could also disrupt this storm as well. Well, let's now take a look at the official forecast courtesy of the National Meteorological Center in China. They had red warnings that were released all in orange here because that's the best graphic I could find, but this is all red warnings for a typhoon. That means that typhoon impacts are expected within 6 hours, if not already occurring for all of these areas. So, this is what they say. Typhoon Saola is projected to move north by west at the speed of 10 to 15 kilometers per hour with a steady intensity. They're not expecting weakening, they're expecting it to hold steady. They're expecting from September 1st to 2nd that the Taiwan Strait, central and southern South China Sea, Nishina Islands, Zengoga Islands, and coastal regions near Hungian Island, and coastal regions near southern Fujian, Gudong, Pearl River Estuary, and Taiwan Island will be exposed to a scale 7 to 9 gale. I'd assume this is on the Beaufort scale. That is pretty high end. Precipitation forecasts are currently expecting 250 to 800, not 800, 280 millimeters of rain. So 250 to 280 millimeters of rain in the highest regions for rain there. So that's definitely something to note as well. Let's take a look at the official forecast now, courtesy of the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Impacts near and east of Hong Kong have already begun. Seoul will make its closest approach to land around 8 p.m. Chinese time tomorrow, and that is going to be west of Hong Kong. The closest approach to Hong Kong is expected here around tonight China time, so 8 p.m. tonight, perhaps even a bit later than that, but Hong Kong is going to be experiencing typhoon conditions overnight tonight heading into tomorrow, so a potentially devastating major typhoon is knocking on the doorstep of Hong Kong. Beyond that, major typhoons are possible, and again, a direct landfall in Hong Kong cannot be ruled out. This is an extremely dangerous situation for everyone there. And forecasts have consistently been weakening the storm too fast. We talked about that earlier, but I cannot stress that enough. This storm could be moving into shore with winds of 140 miles per hour or slightly less. So while the 115 miles per hour to perhaps 100 miles per hour ish region is what's currently forecast, I wouldn't be shocked to see it go a bit higher than that. I'm urging the residents of Hong Kong and those within the path of this storm to take action now to prepare, even if you're in the cone when the storm is weaker, because again, catastrophic rainfall is going to be possible once this thing really slows down there in the day 4 through 5 period near Hainan. Well, let's now talk about rainfall. This is not an official graphic. This is a weather model. This is the HAFS model, which is an important weather model that we're now using to forecast tropical systems. And you'll notice they're well over 2 feet of rain have fallen here. That's well over 600, 700 millimeters of rain, significantly higher than that, even if this model is to be believed. Now, you'll notice it stalls out the storm earlier than the official forecast currently does. So if this model is right, it's going to be to the west of Hong Kong. If the official forecast is right, that catastrophic rainfall of over 2 feet is going to be occurring in areas like Hainan, for example. That would be nearing a meter of rainfall, which is quite nuts. Let's briefly now mention Typhoon Haikui, because this thing could, or Haikui, because this thing could become a significant impact for Taiwan, and then again impact China after that. It's expected to become a 120 mile per hour Category 3 typhoon before heading into land here. So this is expected to be a rather serious storm for Taiwan. Confidence relatively high on that. We'll have more information on that as we head into the future. Let's now talk about what you can do when it comes to when a storm threatens. Make sure to protect your home, cover windows, secure doors, and loose items. Determine your sheltering options, whether that be in the basement of your own home or that be evacuation. Make sure that you know what to do in that regard. Make sure you have a to-go bag, medication, supplies, ways to charge your stuff. Make sure you're helping your neighbors, especially if they don't have access to transportation like you do. Make sure that those that are vulnerable get the same fulfillment of needs that you have. And if evacuation orders are given, please be sure to follow them. Let's talk about hurricane preparedness here during the storm. This is a typhoon that we're dealing with here. However, this is from the U.S. National Weather Service, but it does apply to all tropical cyclones. Make sure that you're staying in your safe place from water and wind. Water, you're going up. Wind, you're going down. So evaluate which one's a bigger threat, and then act accordingly. Have a way to get weather alerts and forecast updates. Those can be weather alerts on your phone or Chinese local media. Keep in mind that impacts can be felt far from the coast, so if you're inland, especially when it comes to rain and wind, make sure that if you're inland from Hong Kong, you're still prepared, and listen to local officials and avoid travel unless ordered to evacuate. After the storm, make sure that you only return if you're evacuated when you're directed that it is safe. Remain vigilant as hazards remain. That can be heat, down power lines, floodwaters, leaking gas, things like that. Make sure to clean up safely. Don't push yourself. Check on your neighbors. Watch out for things like power lines that can shock you in these situations. Make sure that you're only using generators outdoors or things of that nature 20 feet away from any sort of homes, because that could cause some serious carbon monoxide poisoning if happening within a building. And prepare for the likelihood that help communications may not be available, especially if under mandatory evacuations. Thank you so much for watching. We hope this video was useful. We wish the best for all of those in the path of Typhoon Saola and Haikui, and we will have more information on Haikui here in the future. Saola, again, expected to be a catastrophic storm for Hong Kong and then areas to the west, including Hainan. So thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you like the video, leave a like. If you want to talk to us, you can go to our Discord server for that, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.